We're going to meet the set of new projects that have just launched, and I'll ask your permission to go through the set of presentations from the new projects and then open the floor to allow you to ask them questions. If we do it in such a continuous, coherent way, we'll get the complete picture. The risk if we start asking individual questions is we'll consume the time and not give fair time to all the presentations. So that's the order of the agenda for the day. There is a prize of coffee for everyone who sits through the full session afterwards, so I'll appreciate your patience for that. And to introduce the session, we've asked Bernard Barani from the Commission to explain how the Commission see this set of projects and the experience of securing them. Bernard.
Okay, many thanks, David. So on our side, this project or this set of projects belongs to what we call the 5G PPP Phase 3. So in the so-called Phase 3, our ambition was to promote use cases and to put, let's say, the technology in motion and to try to see what kind of use case can be best promoted with 5G. And also, one of the side objectives was to try to bring into the game as many actors from the vertical industries. That means not from the traditional set of stakeholders and telecom constituency, but to try to open the game. And we made a specific requirement towards these projects, which was as much as possible, it was not mandatory, but as much as possible, to use and reuse or to launch their trials and their experiments on the so-called ICT19 platform. So that means the 3 platforms that we had contracted earlier, which are providing a kind of pan-European infrastructure to run trials, which are the projects EVE, Vini, and the 5 Genesis. So what did we get out of this? So we get a set of 7 projects. We have names here with different colors, 5G Heart, 5G Victory, Smart, and so on, so they will be presented. And they spread across a set of use cases and vertical type of sectors, which is pretty diverse. So from that perspective, we tend to believe that it was not a bad call. So we, from the perspective of hitting as wide a set of use case, vertical use cases as possible, I think we got something good. And on our side, it's really an interesting set of use cases to go through. Now, this is a bit more crowded, and so you will get the slides, so eventually you can read what's on the slides. But if you look at the very top horizontal row, you have the set of use cases which you could find in the submitted proposals. So the whole set of proposals that was submitted range across all these type of use cases, and the vertical bars indicate the set of use cases that were covered by all the submitted proposals, with the green bars indicating what remains after the evaluation. So the green bars indicate the use cases which will actually be implemented by the set of the 7 retained projects. So we still have use cases in each and every domain which was submitted. But of course, we have lost a few of them because we couldn't support all the submitted proposals. But you can see that it's already quite a wide selection. There was no focus into one particular domain, which we believe, again, is quite good. So leveraging on the facilities, I said that we wanted the project as much as possible to use the ICT19 platforms. So here again, it seems that we got some interesting results because all the projects will use one way or another the contracted EVE, Vini, or Genesis, 5G Genesis facilities. So that's a very good project, a very good result from our perspective. And now, if you look at the cartography that comes out when you consider both the ICT19 platform projects and the new retained trial projects, you would see that a number of nodes have been added to the pan-European infrastructures, and these new nodes that come with the new projects, they are reflected with the yellow stars. And why is that so? Because sometimes the new projects consider, okay, we want to run trials, we want to run vertical experiments, but we don't have the nodes, all the nodes that we need in the existing 3 platforms, so we need additional nodes, so they bring some additional capabilities into the overall infrastructure. So now we have something pretty complete. Let's say the only problem that this at the end of the day brings to us, but this is a Commission problem, if I may say so, is that you can see that in this cartography, it's very much covering the Western Europe part, with the Eastern countries being much less well served. So this is something for the future. We have to think how to correct that to also please our member states of the East. So we also had 2 CSAs that have been contracted in this call. So one will cover the next edition, so the EuCNC conference, and the full 5G will provide the overall coordination of the PPP activities in terms of running the logistics, the working groups, the things that go with the integration at program level. So in terms of overall assessment, so in our view, it's a good set of projects that we have taken on board. We have a good coverage of multiple use cases, and that was one of the objectives, with a large portfolio of use cases. Now, we are reusing all ICT19 platforms, which is good. We have a kind of good representation of the vertical industries, because when we look at the participation in the projects by the various companies and various actors, we have 150 different participation from members in the different projects, and out of these 150, 60 come from the vertical industries or from the vertical sectors, which we believe, again, is an interesting result. 40% of new participants, again, is something which for us is always positive to see that we are not playing always with the same close club. And 66% of industry participation, which is again something we tend to consider positive because we are in an industry-driven program, so it's normal that industry takes the lion's share, with 20% SME participation, which is our minimum target for the PPP, to have at least 20% SME coverage. So at least we've made it in this call. So the top 10 actors, they are depicted on this slide. So you can see who are behind. So in the private companies, it's a mix of people from the vertical side and people from the more traditional ICT or IT side. And again, same for the universities. So this is a ranking by budget, so what people get. So you can see whom you can talk to if you have interest to talk to these projects. And that's my last slide, and thanks again for your attention.
Thank you very much, Bernard. And as I said, we'll make some time for question and answers at the end. Continuing the agenda, the next talk is from the 5GIA, Colin Wilcock. And I think, Colin, you should explain the 5GIA.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you, Bernard. So this is going to be tricky, so bear with me. And we're Friday in the conference. Most people have gone home. Very late social event. I've only had one coffee. And most of the things I wanted to show you seem to have been stolen either by the presentation before me or the presentation after me. So I haven't got too long to bore you, so that's good. What remains, what I can perhaps talk about, is firstly explain what the hell 5GIA is, because lots of people have heard of the 5G PPP and they've heard of 5GIA and how do they relate. Now, a lot of people in this room, if you're in the program, I hope you know the difference. But maybe there's one or two here, so let me go through the motions and see where we get to. So the 5GIA tries to be an association which gives the voice of European industry on all things 5G. So this is on the research, development, and evolution of 5G. And when it talks about industry, it doesn't just mean big industry. It doesn't mean just the Ericssons and Nokias of this world. It also includes SMEs, but also universities and research institutes, the whole ecosystem. And this is important because we need to have a direction. And our key partners are indeed the European Commission, who were represented by Bernard, and obviously they need to know where European industry stands on critical 5G issues, the spectrum, the security, the further development, the next calls, what should be in there. And that is where we can be that partner to discuss those, where we can discuss with our members to give a definite position. But beyond that, beyond trying to work out a European position on some of these key questions, we are also part of this 5G PPP. And PPP stands for Public-Private Partnership. The public part is Bernard and his large checkbook, and that's wonderful. But the private side is then the 5GIA. So the 5GIA is representing European industry, signing the contract for that program, guiding and steering that program together with the European Commission. So this is why, if you're involved in the PPP, you should be interested in the association, because in many ways the association is providing a voice to that PPP. A lot of the working groups, which I wanted to talk to, but David has stolen my slide. A lot of the working groups are being driven by the 5GIA in the strategic one, and we're always looking for new members. So if you're involved in PPP projects and you want to get a better visibility not just within a project, but across the program, what is going on? And what about the strategic questions, the spectrum, the security? Those are the reasons to join the association, and we will welcome new members. Okay, I shall go to my second slide. Again, for those new to this whole area in the room, I just wanted to give some context. So Bernard gave a very good presentation of exactly this 3B call and ICT19 and where it fits. I wanted to actually take a step back and see what have we done over the lifetime of 5G PPP and where this fits in. If this is all known to you, forgive me for boring you, but hey. The point is that we started, and this is, I think, a good example of the European Commission reacting fast in a timely way, a consistent way, a impactful way by starting early. So through the discussions of industry, the 5GIA and the Commission, we started this program relatively early. So 2015, we had the first projects up there. And the first set of projects was very much looking at the core technology. What will 5G be? Now, maybe that sounds a strange sentence. What will 5G be? But you have to remember, at those times, 2013, 14, 15, everyone was talking about 5G as if it was defined. Yes, 5G will do this and 5G will do that. And yet, no one knew what it was. It wasn't defined at all, what the core technologies were. So it was taking those requirements, those ideas, and then trying through research, focused research, trying to find out what technologies should actually be selected for becoming 5G, which is now a reality. So those phase one projects have fed in hundreds of contributions to 3GPP to help define critical aspects of that 5G technology. So that was phase one, defining the 5G. Phase two, which is coming to an end, was trying to then work with the vertical industry. So from an early stage, we saw that for European industry, it wasn't necessarily about deploying the first versions of 5G, which were mainly aimed at mobile broadband, but rather trying to expand the envelope, trying to go beyond telecoms to look at these new industries, the automotive, the industry 4.0, the e-health. And to do that, it's not enough just to go and get a piece of paper from these other industries that say, here's the requirements, off you go and do it. You have to collaborate with them. You have to work very closely with them to understand not just what they're doing today, but by putting their ideas with possible technology development from the telecoms, coming up with new ideas, which then feed into the standard and make the whole ecosystem stronger. So that was what phase 2 is about, working with these vertical sectors in a dialogue to try and find out what's the best possible solution. So as Bernhard said, we're now more in phase 3. And phase 3, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build these platforms, these infrastructures, so that we have a place where European and other actors can come and try out innovative ideas. So in phase 2, we looked at what are the possibilities, but there was not necessarily so much scope to actually try these ideas. And this is what we're trying to do in phase 3. We're trying to make an innovation platform where the verticals and other players can come about and try those ideas out on real 5G systems. And I think the demonstrations we've seen outside sort of give a flavor of the sort of things we can do, going from PowerPoint to reality. And that's a vital step that we need to do. And we need to do that, not just to have great conferences like this, but to convince those vertical industries to invest in 5G. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Colin. You caught me by surprise with the quick ending there. We'll now move into the project presentations, and I'll ask the projects, please, to stick to the time limits. We do have lots of projects to show, and I think there is probably too much information. So when you're giving your presentations, please, yes, explain your project, but don't go into too much detail. Allow them to read some of the details off the slides later. Our first project in what is more or less alphabetical order, even though we don't know how an exclamation mark counts in the alphabet, 5G drones. And can I ask Jussi Hapola to, how do I pronounce it? Hapola, okay. Jussi, please. There's a remote there.
Okay. Thank you. So 5G drones, as the project says, is all about drones. So every single use case we have is related to a UAV or UAS vertical system. So the project, we have about 20, or we have exactly 20 partners. So it's quite well balanced between 5G companies, between UAV companies, and the academy as well. So we have a few challenges in here. So the UAV industry is kind of just a fledgling industry. It's growing, it has a lot of potential, but one of the main limitations is that the reliable flights, especially beyond visual line of sight, is kind of difficult. Most of the UAVs, they actually can focus on using proprietary radio solutions that okay, you get connectivity a few kilometers, but it's sort of limited in what you can transfer, how good imaging you can transfer, etc. And that suddenly it stops. So the point of 5G is to enable these reliable flights beyond visual line of sight. And that has been recently enabled by different regulatory changes. There are technological advancements, and of course the drones have better onboard control units and better possibilities as well. So to enable the adoption of UAVs, basically we need ultra reliable and low latency remote command and control communications. So this is where 5G can help the UAV industry significantly. It's really, if you can create slices that are secure, they guarantee you a very low latency, and it works well over tens of kilometers of distances. I think it's a very good start. So integrating 5G and UAV has positive sides for both of the parties. So it's beneficial for the UAV verticals, because they will be able to validate their use cases and demonstrate the benefit of the huge potential that UAV carries in civilian and commercial applications. They also enable the reduction of the maintenance cost because they don't have to actually take care of the communication network. And it will streamline their risk assessment because the current regulations state that you have to carry out very detailed risk assessment whenever you're doing flights. Whenever you're rising above 50 meters, whenever you're going beyond visual line of sight, it is a very lengthy process, and this will make it so much better or so much easier. So for the 5G actors, the UAVs present an interesting space because the drones will be flying high, well, at least, well, easily 50 meters, maybe 100 meters, in some cases kilometers. And we all know that the base stations are not aligned to cater for services at that altitude. And of course, any transmissions coming from UAVs, they tend to interfere quite heavily with multiple cells because you have free space path loss, the transmission distances covers like multiple base stations at a time. So the main targets for this project, so we trial several use cases that cover EMBB, URLLC, and massive machine type 5G services. So one of the key concepts, well actually one of the main key concepts is network slicing in here, because we need to run different applications. We need to run a UAV management slice, which is completely isolated from the data that actually takes place in UAV communications. And we have to do it end to end. So we have to include run, backhaul, core, etc., etc. So specific challenges. So these are the things we need to answer. Questions, a lot of questions. What are the missing components in current ICT facilities? So we're using 5G Eve in Sofia Antipolis. We are using 5Genesis in Athens. We're also using the 5GTN network in Oulu and the AltoX network. So what are the missing components to support UAV verticals use cases? What current 5G components need to be improved? How do we allow the UAV verticals to run the test without somebody in the 5G domain typing in the specific inputs required for a particular UAV use case? So how do we automate the process? That's a significant test. So that relates to also to abstraction of the ICT19 facilities and their APIs. And really how to build a secure network slice, which is completely isolated in some cases. Imagine, for example, a drone flying over a stadium with tens of thousands of people. It is simply not acceptable that the drone crashes down. So we have to guarantee that the control is perfectly secure. Nobody can interfere. You have to be able to predict if there are any possible ailments to the operation of the UAV, and you have to divert it. So that requires significant security. So the division of work is like this. So on the left side, we have our basic architecture. So we have the 5G facilities, and we have the end-to-end slices. So these are governed by the southbound API. On the other hand, on the up, we have the UAV verticals, and they access the facilities via web portal through the northbound API. But what then? We actually need to implement a trial engine. So that is the coordinator for the different trial use cases. We need to implement strategies and also functions to monitor the KPIs, not only the 5G KPIs, but also the UAV KPIs. And we need to enforce the trials. So whenever a trial is created, it needs to be instantiated in the 5G facilities, and they need to be enforced. So on the right side of this figure is how we are planning to do it. So it's a description of the work packages we have. So first is work package 1, which is use cases, which is already started. And basically it covers the use cases and system architecture. So how and what the UAV, so what are the actual exact scenarios that cover what the UAV industry needs, because oftentimes UAV industry has a lot of several kilometers of flight, and we all know that the current ICT19 facilities or any other 5G facilities, they cover very limited distances. So how to be able to demonstrate the key UAV KPIs within those facilities, how to transition from the facility into a normal network and come back and still satisfy the use case, and also how to assess the 5G KPIs. So next I would have the objectives for this project, but I'm going to skip them because it's homework for you. What I want to show is really two objectives that we have on validation of 5G KPIs. So we have the URLLC, and I really emphasize the ultra reliability here. That is our key concern. Also, the latency is in some cases less than 1 millisecond is really challenging, but we need it for UAV traffic management. So the other side of the coin is to also validate the UAV KPIs using 5G technology. So you have a number of topics in there. And here's our consortium. So 20 partners from many countries. We have, from the UAV side, we have UAV software manufacturers, UAV drone manufacturers, air traffic management software providers. We have consulting in the UAV domain as well. So we have the entire UAV sector. Also, we have a slightly bigger UAV, operator called Airbus. On the other hand, we have on telecom side, we have significant players. We have Nokia. We have on the security side, we have Thales Communications. And of course, as Bernard Parani showed, many of the academic institutions that are in the top 10. So, thank you. This is our social media. Please follow us.
Okay, thank you, Jussi. We'll move on straight away to the second presentation, 5G Hard, and our presenter is Hasek Kim. Hasek, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Hasek Kim from VTT, Finland. I'm a coordinator of the 5G Hard projects. As you can see here, 5G Hard is covering the healthcare vertical, aquaculture, and transport vertical. So we started this project in this month, and last week we have a kickoff meeting. This is our project website. If you are interested in our work, then please visit our website. Right? Then this is a 5G Hard partner. As you can see, we have 21 partners in research sector and university, mobile operator, and vendor, and SME. Also, each vertical sector companies are involved in this project. As you can see here, all partners are spread in whole European country, Finland and Norway, UK, Ireland, France, and Greece and Netherlands. Okay, this is a 5G Hard facility. We're going to use ICT17 platform, 5G Bini, Genesis, and Eve. And also we added 2 additional test platforms in the Finland, 5G TN. This is the national 5G test platform. The other one is 5G Groningen. This is Netherlands 5G test platform. So we have a multiple pilot site. In Norway, we will performing the healthcare vertical and also aquaculture vertical in Oslo, Kongsberg, and Trondheim, using the 5G Bini test platform. In Surrey, in UK, we will perform mostly transport vertical using the 5G Genesis. And in Aston, we performing aquaculture vertical using the 5G Bini platform. In Oulu, we will perform healthcare and transport. And in Groningen, in Netherlands, we will also performing healthcare and transport. We define 8 user cases in this project. However, each user cases have some sub-user cases and also some different scenarios. So approximately we have more than 20 user cases we will perform in this project. All right, then next, this is the 5G hub ecosystem. As I said, we will cover healthcare, aquaculture, and then transportations. H1 is remote intervention support. If this is about remote surgery or remote or something, intervention. Let's say remote side, there is some patient, then that we make some communication link between the local site and hospital, and we're gonna observing the patient. The other application could be some math student. We install some 360 camera and some IoT device in the surgery room, and math student wearing the AR glasses and observing the surgery room operation for the education purpose. Other user cases, H2 is field cam, is we're gonna using the column capsule. So this is developed by the University Hospital, Oslo University Hospital. Currently, the column capsule is the patients swallow the column capsule, and that the information is collecting inside the body, and that this communication link is information is stored in outside storage. Then you're gonna that the storage information we analyzed. But what we want to do is we make some EMBB communication link from the storage to some remote side. So remote side, the doctor could see that information so real time. So another use case is H3 is vital patch. This is developed by the Philips. If patient is using that patch, then the remote side we are continuously monitoring patients' health conditions. The other one is aquaculture side. We have one user cases. In the fish pond, if there is one fish have some disease, then that disease is very quickly spread in the whole cages. So the many fishes is dead. So it is so important to continuously monitoring fishes condition. So we set up some 5G system, let's say some underwater camera and sensor and the drone. Then we collect that information in the 5G gateway, and we analyzing that information in the some server. So we observing the fish farm's status. The other one is transport. We define the 4 user cases: platooning and autonomous driving, assistant and remote driving, and also remote diagnosis. So one of them, I couldn't dive into in this user cases. One of them are driver condition monitoring. So one of our partner is Pola, is a Finnish company. They developed some smartwatch, and if driver wearing that smartwatch, then we could observing driver's condition. Let's say if drivers are dowsing, then we're gonna give some alarm. If have some got stroke or something very serious situation, then the automotive vehicle take the control and the car is moving to the hospital directly. This is one of our user cases. Okay, this is the 5G stakeholder impact. As you can see, it's low layer, and the research sector are starting the more academic work, and the telecom sector, mobile operator and vendor, they develop network solution. And each vertical sector, healthcare, transport, and aquaculture, we develop the user case together and trying to bring a big impact to each vertical sector. We are expecting the more efficient clinical process in healthcare sector and also reducing hospital OPEX. In transport sector, we are expecting the better public safety and more higher level of the automated load transportation. In aquaculture sector, we are expecting better food production. So we are expecting the very big impact in each particular sector. Okay, this is the business model. Well, this is one of our study topic. Well, let's say we have one combined user cases. For example, when there is some accident, some patients is needed to go to the hospital. So first responder arrive at the spot and pick up the patient and go to the hospital. In this scenario, our transport sector, we are trying to managing the traffic control. And the healthcare sector, we install some equipment in the ambulance and the ER doctor and observing the ambulance situation. So ER doctor gives some advice to first responder. In order to do this, we need dedicated slicing, dedicated beamforming, and we need many network resources. But here is big questions. Who's gonna willing to pay for these services? Patients or hospital, local government, insurance company? We don't know yet. So we're gonna study. We're gonna study about the business model, how we're gonna using that user cases. Next, this is a timeline of a vertical trial. We are based on the phase approach. Each user cases have a little different types of phase approach, phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3. For example, in phase 1, we're going to test in locally, in local test, and phase 2, we're going to try to long distance, let's say Oulu and Oslo, and Oulu and Netherlands. In phase 3, we're going to test some mobility issues. In first 5 months, we're going to submit the first deliverable in month 5, which is October this year. We're going to develop more elaborate our user cases and requirement and the KPI. So in this period, we're going to the very close collaboration with ICT19 projects. We're going to discuss continuously about our user cases and requirement and the KPI together with ICT19 project. All right. Okay, this is my last slide. So, summary. So 5G Hub will focusing on the 3 main vertical, healthcare, transport, and aquaculture. And we are expecting the big impact to each vertical sector. Okay, thank you. This is our partner. So again, if you are interested in our project, please visit our website. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazik. Don't go away at the end because we'll have chances to ask questions to the projects when we get there. Okay, getting back on the schedule now. The next project presentation is 5G growth. And we have a good example of growth to show us.
Okay. Thanks for the nice introduction, David. So my name is Carlos Bernardos. I work at University Carlos III in Madrid and currently the project coordinator of 5G Transformer and 5G Growth. So what is the main objective of 5G Growth? Well, the main objective of 5G Growth is to basically perform a technical and business validation of 5G technologies from a vertical point of view by using 4 vertical trial sites and performing vertical trials on those vertical sites. So in order to do so, we will be leveraging a lot on 5G Transformer project results and other 5G PPP phase 2 projects that will basically are providing or are supposed to be providing these 5G technologies that we will be validating over the ICT19 platforms. So this is the other key component of our project, how to use, interact, and benefit from these 5G end-to-end testing platforms. And in the case of 5G growth, we will be using 5G VINI and 5G IF platforms. So as I mentioned, we will be doing pilots and field trials. We have 4 vertical pilots, and on top of those, we will be testing 9 different use cases. And I will try to basically introduce those very, very briefly in the next slide. And this will be done in 4 vertical-owned sites in close collaboration with the vendors of the project, basically Ericsson, InterDigital, NEC, and Nokia, and in close collaboration also with the operators that we have in the project, Telefonica, Telecom Italia, and Altis Labs. We are a 30-month project, and our consortium is composed by 21 partners. I will not go into the list. You have additional information in our website and other dissemination channels that you have there in the slide. But as you can see, we have a very good mix of verticals, operators, vendors, SMEs, research centers, and universities. So regarding the pilots, well, we mentioned that we want to perform real field trials involving the customer sites of those verticals, and we will be doing that in the location of those verticals in Spain, in the north of Spain, in Portugal, in Aveiro, and in Italy, in Turin. That will require, of course, deploying additional infrastructure for the validation and testing of pre-commercial 5G equipment, and we will be doing that in the vertical premises, and we will connect that to the ICT19 platforms that we are interacting in the project, 5G VINI and 5G IF. Regarding the pilots, we can classify those pilots in 3 main families or umbrellas: Industry 4.0, and we have Innovalia in the north of Spain and Comau in Turin for that kind of family. We have Energy umbrella, and we have EFASEC in Aveiro, and we have also transportation for the railway signaling in Aveiro as well with EFASEC. In the right-hand side, you can see kind of a picture of the different industry families that we have, vertical families that we have, sorry. Industry 4.0 in Novalia and Comau, transportation and energy, and you can see also the vertical premises and all interconnected with the 5G end-to-end testing platforms, 5G IF and 5G VINI. Regarding the vertical use cases, we aim at doing field trial tests, TRL 6 and 7 on 9 different use cases, split or classifying these 4 different vertical pilots. I will not go into the details, but you can see here that we have for Industry 4.0 in Innovalia 2 different use cases, all around connected remote operation for allowing the control and the monitoring of the manufacturing facilities from a remote location. That implies a lot of information to be transmitted and also pre-processing at the edge in order to facilitate that task. So here we will be testing and validating some of the key functionalities that 5G is supposed to bring. We have also similar use cases for the Industry 4.0 in Comau premises. So we have digital twinning, remote telemetry, remote support. We have transportation for the railway signaling in EFASEC in Aveiro with both safety critical and non-safety critical communications. And last but not least, we will also be doing field trialing over the energy kind of vertical in EFASEC in Aveiro as well, in order to provide monitoring and remote support for the energy facilities. In these 9 use cases, basically we will be showing the different type of slices that 5G provides, and also the concurrent use of those slices in the same vertical pilot. So we will be doing both things. 5G growth is also meant to be providing or doing some innovations. Before going into those innovations, we mentioned at the beginning that we are validating 5G technologies. Those 5G technologies are provided by the 5G PPP phase 2, well, phase 1 and phase 2 projects, and we are using the specific example of 5G transformer. So we are taking the 5G transformer baseline architecture as a starting point, but it's basically well aligned to other phase 2 project architectures that are being finalized these days. So we have this 3-layer architecture. We have on the bottom layer the resources, encompassing multiple domains, both technical and administrative domains. Then we have the orchestration layer that is basically in charge of providing slices, composing resources and services provided by the resource layer. And then we have on top of that the vertical slicer, which is basically the interface to the verticals. It's where the vertical goes and requests a particular service with particular characteristics, and the vertical slicer basically transforms those requirements into the required slices and requests that to the service orchestrator. So this is our starting point. That is basically our baseline architecture for Phi growth. And then on top of that, we will be also working on some innovations because we want to empower vertical industries based on the requirements that we identify at the proposal phase for these three different verticals: Industry 4.0, transportation and energy, to bring a AI-driven, shareable, and automated 5G solution. So we have also on the slide, again, the architecture of Phi growth. And here I try to identify the main innovations that we will be working in the project. In the vertical slicer, we basically want to enhance the vertical support and how to provide tools for building and maintaining the vertical slices. Then we have on the orchestration side, we want to work on closed loop automation and better SLA support for those verticals, services provided to the verticals. And in the resource layer, basically, we want to work on AI-driven end-to-end network solutions, trying to optimize the use of the resources that we have at that layer and the concurrent use of the different slices. So this is a very brief summary of what we want to do on the innovation side. And just to finalize, while I show the partners of the project, just to briefly say what we are doing now. Basically, we are now working on the requirements. We have a complete list of requirements in the proposal from the different vertical use cases. So in the first 3 months, we are basically revisiting that to check if something has to be slightly modified, because that will drive the architecture of the project. And in parallel, we are doing a very critical work item that is analyzing what ICT17 platforms can provide, what we need from our side, and try to identify the gaps. Because we already have a kickoff meeting last week, and we foresaw that the next few months are going to be critical in terms of identifying what are the interactions that we need to have with the ICT17 platforms, and how all the ICT19 and ICT17 projects will fit in, because it's a complex mix and match. And if you have any question, we can take care of that in the final slot or in the coffee break. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll just bring the microphones back down a little. Okay, we're doing well on our agenda. Thank you to the projects. You're keeping good time. We'll move straight on with Jose Montserrat for the 5G Smart presentation. Jose, please.
So, good morning. I'm Professor Jose Montserrat from UPB, one of the guys hosting you here. So I also had the opportunity to talk about this outstanding project I'm so happy with, which is the 5G Smart. We have the big guys, the smart guys, we have everyone in this room. So I liked to start with some comments I heard along this conference. The first was about Colin. He made an interview the first day, and they were asking him, do you think is the main driver of the 5G? And he said, in Europe, it's productivity. Either we use this boost of productivity that can bring the 5G, or maybe likely Europe will be a third world country in 20 years. This statement was like shock to me. It's like, come on, really? And I have also this feeling. I had a feeling that our industry is in a bad moment. I mean, I'm talking about Europe. And either we put resources on improving our productivity, or it will be a mess. And on the other side, I also heard Ku Jung from ZTE, and I also heard people from Huawei saying that their experience in Asia, and mainly in Korea with 1 million 5G subscribers, they are like letting us know how it's going to happen, the 5G. They say that the main driver of the 5G in Asia will be the gaming. And I was happy also to hear that. I mean, I was feeling, okay, Europe is betting on industry, while maybe other parts of the world are betting on gaming. So I think this is about money. And if we have something that can bring money to our pockets, it's going to be projects like 5G Start. 5G Smart is based on field trials, so we are trying to identify how to make money of the Industry 4.0. And this is why we first want to demonstrate in 3 different premises of top-class industry factories. And also, Bernard said, put a very nice slide. I took a picture of this slide, saying how you map the different ICT17 projects with the ICT19. And it was a comment about 5G Smart saying, well, they are using 5G Eve, because it's true. We have some of our demos are placed in Ericsson premises in Madrid. But also, we need new emplacements for our demos, because we need to go to these industries that now, for us, are example of this productivity I was mentioning, and we need to also put on them as an example for the others to continue on this value creation. And this is why the business modeling for smart manufacturing is so important for us. So in this project, we are going to do 3 basically things. To first check which is the network architecture for the 5G radio deployment. To second, also go beyond release 15, mainly in release 16 and 17 standardization bodies for the creation of 5G technologies that are especially suited for the productivity of our industry, for the boost of Industry 4.0. And finally, to configure a 5G network that is industrial-centric, similarly to the 5G growth objective, that is just to build everything on top of a specific slice that is dedicated for the industry. And these are the 3 premises I have mentioned. We have in Aachen, the Fraunhofer IPT. You know, there is a so astonishing factory. Fraunhofer is a research institute, but in Aachen they have a real factory of turbines. And these turbines, they have some problems that we try to solve with it. Then we have in Ericsson headquarters in Kista, we have this Ericsson factory, which is a demo factory with ABB. And in this factory, they are planning the factory of the future, which is flexible, is moving. I mean, the robots should be collaboratively moving, and this flexibility requires for the wireless empowering of this element. And the third one, and is likely the most impressive one, is the Bosch in Rattlingen factory, in which they are doing all the wafers and the silicon chips likely in half of the world. And in this factory, they have also big problems related to the lack of this wireless characterization. And we also have people from Bosch, in this case, the commitment of Bosch in this project is impressive, that are willing to take these cables out of this factory. And this is the aim of this project. So let me give you some details of the 3 trials. The first one is this Kista trial. It's mainly driven by Ericsson, of course, and ABB. Then we have with this robot I mentioned from ABB Industrial Manufacturing. And we want all this to be controlled by this cloud service. It's going to be based on mobile edge computing. And we are also dealing with all the part of artificial vision, virtual reality, and how a controller can actually in real time make use of this robot to improve the efficiency of this system. Here, the focus is on the flexibility of the network, on the wireless communication, and also on the ultra reliability and the reliability and resilience of this controller, as yesterday FedBy said to us. Resilience is that we don't have 4 fails in a row that can make our robot to stop. This is about the KPIs of this use case. In Aachen, we are doing these turbines. And in these turbines, the question is that the blade of the turbine has some resonance points. You have to put sensors inside this machinery that is melting and fusing all this steel in the blade. And this process has to be made in real time, and this sensor has to be sending wirelessly this information to control the process of melting and creation of the blade. So for that, we need really a wireless sensor that does not exist. And now the problem is that they make the turbine, and then they have to test if the turbine has resonance. They have to throw all this blade that is maybe 20,000 euros to the waste. So we are going to create a sensor that is wirelessly 5G for that. And this is why we have here Marpos and U-blocks, which are really specialized in the design of new sensors. And this is, again, a challenge for the project. And we want to connect these sensors with 5G, which is something that requires a very specialized process of design. And finally, we have this Reutlingen Bosch factory, and here we have a very impressive problem. They are making wafers, this silicon like kind of disc, And the problem is that in this process of making these transistors there and on imprinting them, they are so sensitive to electromagnetic fields that even the personnel there cannot have their phones on their pockets because they destroyed all the production of wafers. So they have a real problem of wireless impossibility. It's there impossible to use anything wireless. So the question is that what we are going to do is to play with what we know about 5G, that we can make beams, that we can focus all the interference in certain points, and we are going to make extensive measurements to how avoid the 5G really hamper the processes of manufacturing that are sensitive to the electromagnetic field. This is something, again, so specific to this kind of case, but so important for the productivity that we are going to change maybe how we produce wafers in Europe, because if we manage to do the wireless, we can move to a process of robotization that currently is made manually because it's impossible to put any kind of resources there. So basically, this is what I wanted to say to you. Sorry. I don't know what I did. But I did so bad. Well, you have to click in the...
It's on the link.
Okay, sorry. So it's smart. So that's all. Just finishing with the comment that the coordinator of the project is Ericsson, and the technical manager in this case is ABB. So any question you may have, I am the innovation manager, but I can answer to you later. So thank you.
Thank you, Jose. And I hope, just pretend you didn't see that sneak preview of the slides for later on. Okay. 5G solutions, and we should have Andrea. I haven't met these project leaders yet. This is why I'm a little bit nervous as to whether they're here or not for each presentation. My only concern here with Andrea is he has lots of slides, but try and keep the time. Thank you.
Yeah, don't worry. Andrea Di Giglio, team, okay. Sorry. I'm Andrea Di Giglio, team. This is 5G Solutions. Is a big project, more or less like these other ones. The message here is that the duration is 36 months. The budget is more than 14 million euros. And there is a lot of partners, in particular 10 SMEs. What I want to focus here in this slide is that there are a lot of SMEs inside this consortium, as the more than 40% of effort and budget is to SMEs. Okay. As the other projects, the goal of ICT19 is to prove and validate if 5G capabilities on top of ICT17 infrastructure are able to carry on the requirements that verticals has in the 5G network. In particular, for 5G solutions, the verticals that we consider are factories of the future, smart energy, smart cities and smart ports, media entertainment. What I would like to focus here is that we have not only the technical validation, of course, really important, essential, because if a solution does not work, of course, it's a problem. It's not viable. But also, if the solution is too expensive or nobody wants to buy it, of course, is as well as a problem. So the business validation is a cornerstone of this project. And from a technical point of view, we leverage on end-to-end service orchestration, the visualization of KPIs in order to have already, in any moment, the visualization of all the KPIs that, if the parameters, the performance of the solutions are in line with the KPIs. Then the API, in order to have a very user-friendly applications that make possible that everyone can access to 5G technologies. You know very well the triangle of ITUT about the KPIs in 5G. What I have to focus that in 5G solution test, we put our attention to the vertex of the triangles. That means the most challenging ideas, the most challenging trials, in particular for Industry 4.0, the main focus is on the low latency. On the smart energy, we have the device autonomy. On the smart cities, we have a lot of devices connected, a lot of traffic, as well as the media entertainment. So, very, very challenging test in order to really understand if 5G is a plus with respect to 4G. Okay, we leverage on ICT19 infrastructure. We provide some application that is the same as our living labs, and a complex smart KPI visualization system in order to have a database to understand which is the every update if the performance matches with the requirements. The key of this solution is to have a circular validation system. This is very important because we start for the requirements. When we define the requirements, we put the living lab, the setup of the lab. Then we execute the test, and finally we understand from our results, and then the requirements, and go ahead. Of course, the loop in any moment will finish because 36 months is a duration project, no more. So it converges towards solutions in some way. Our location of living labs are based on both 5G Eve, in particular in Italy, and 5G Vini in Norway, in Greece, and there are some private 5G nodes that are based in Ireland, in Belgium, and one also in Norway, and they are connected to 5G Vini. Have a look to the technology readiness level positioning, starting from tier 0, that is just the idea, towards the TRL9, that is the full commercial. In 5G solutions, our position starts from tier 3 or 4, that means that advanced applied research, and the finish of the project, we arrived to have a good exploitation plan, to have a business model, to have solutions validated, technical solutions validated, and we expect then 1 year, 2 years after the end of the projects, we have the commercial available system. This is validated because we expect that is the truth, because we have a lot of industrial partners, a lot of SMEs, not only someone that want to provide a network, 5G networks, okay, operators, vendors that will provide a network, but someone that want to make business on top of this. So I expect that the message is a good exploitation plan at the end of the project, nice commercial availability after 2 years at the end of the project. This is a very, very quick overview of the field trials. We just to show that they are many, and we already thought of them. So we very well defined. So the first one is the factory of the futures. For each of the living labs, we have a lot of use cases. For each of them, we have the class type, if it's massive, if low latency or something similar, which is the participant and where the location. We are also the smart energy on top of 5G Eve. Smart cities and ports, the same living labs, but two different use cases, very important, and media entertainment, okay. Not only the separate living labs, but one of the key of 5G solutions is to have a multi-vertical concurrent usage of the different verticals. In particular, we want to test if when we put together all these tests, the network does not crash, and if it is possible to have the test across multiple networks. So to do this one is necessary to have a good level of orchestrations that is based on this kind of software based on Nokia CBND that will be provided or both 5G and 5G in facilities. Here, that say that we test more than 140 KPIs in all this stuff. I say that the bold face are the one most challenging. You say that we arrive on 99 on reliability, then we have latency less than 5 milliseconds, and the peak data rate very high, in particular in some cases. So I think David is happy that I finish in 10 minutes exactly, and thank you everybody. If you need a coffee break, I'm available for all your questions or visit our website. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I am impressed, and I apologize for ever doubting you on managing the time. Real solution. We'll move straight on to our next presentation, 5G tours. Bell is presenting this. Thank you, Bell.
Hello to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here once again. I would like to say thank you to our friends of UPV for the excellent conference. My name is Bell. I'm from Samsung. I work on 5G tours. Actually, I'm the technical manager of 5G tours, and the project manager is Ericsson Italy. This is a new project. I can spend a lot of time. I have a lot of slides. I can tell you a lot of things about the project. It's a phase 3 project to be built on 5G Eve, and I can tell you details of the budget, and we have a 3 years project. So all these details, as you know, you can see in the website, but if we are thinking about, let's say, 1 minute introduction of the project, I would say, suppose you have a European tourist, well, not necessarily European, suppose you have a tourist coming from, all over the world, from China, Japan, US, or South Africa, visiting Europe, and we would like to help him with visiting the museums, the historical sites. So we have 3 dimensions that we thought of. One dimension is the touristic city, in which we have a museum with virtual reality, in helping him with, in order to see how things were in the past, enable him to see events in high definition media. And then we would like him to go through the city easily. So you have the mobility city. So we would like to have a smart meter, help him park the car easily, find his way through the city. And then the third dimension, if God forbid something happens to him, we would like him to be able to go to the hospital, or maybe bring the helicopter as the organizers did for this conference, and get him to the hospital as soon as possible. Okay, so these are the 3 dimensions of our project, and our vision is to improve the citizens and tourists, making cities more attractive to visit, and more efficient in terms of mobility, and safer for everybody. Okay? So let's say, I would skip this, I will just go to the main goal of the project is to have 13 use cases, as I said, centered around touristic city, mobility efficient city, and safe city. And I will explain how this goes into the... So the three cities are the Turin in Italy for the touristic city, Rennes in France for the safe city, and Athens for the mobility city. And if you think about verticals, the touristic city we have three kinds of verticals. Of course, I will explain the details later. But for example, in the safer city, you will have the hospital that will be the end vertical in which we need to connect to the hospital in order to help patients. And then in case of mobility, for example, the airport can be the vertical. I will show you the details. So these are the three main cities, three beautiful European cities. So if we go to the details of each city, I will go quickly through the use cases. So in case of Turin, we have use cases of augmented tourism experience, telepresence, robot-assisted museum guide, and high-quality video service distribution and distributed video production. I will not go into the details of the KPIs and everything. In the case of the safe city in Rennes, in France, the vertical consumer is the Centre Hospitalier Universitaire of Rennes, which is the hospital of Rennes, and the use cases are remote health monitoring and emergency management, teleguidance for diagnostic and wireless operation room, and optimal ambulance routing. And for the mobility efficient city, Athens is the city, and the use cases are smart parking, video-enhanced ground-based moving vehicles, emergency airport evacuation, and AR/VR, okay? Enhanced educational excursion. So these are the cities. So basically, if we had one slide to retain for this project, it would be this slide here, or this figure here. So basically, we have two phase 2 projects, which are the 5G XCast, which is focusing on broadcast solutions. And then we have 5G Monarch, which designed the architecture, the orchestration for 5G. And then we would like to bring new innovations with the 5G tools on the service layer and also on the artificial intelligence technology. So all these will go, all these previous phase 2 innovations and 5G tools innovation will go into the 5G tools architecture. And this is done to serve the three touristic city, safe city, and mobility efficient city. Of course, we are serving the verticals, as I said. And then we have three cities, Turin, Rennes, and Athens. And all this will sit on top of 5G Eve, which is an ICT19 project. Of course, the main challenge of the project is to have a good synergy with ICT19 5G Eve project in order to enable the three nodes to deliver the different verticals that we would like to do. Okay, so I will skip the details of the work packages and everything. So, okay. So the partners, we have over 20 partners. As I said, Ericsson Italy is the project coordinator. Samsung UK is the technical manager, and we have all these mix of operators, vertical providers, SMEs, universities. UPV is one of our partners. And if we look at the three nodes, Turin node, Rennes node, and Athens node, then you can see how we structure our consortium. So for each node, we have a mobile network operator, so Telecom Italy, Orange, or OTE in Greece. And then we have a network infrastructure manufacturer, so we have Ericsson, Nokia, France or Greece. And then we have additional vendors providing the handset, providing the chipset, for example, Xpoi, Atos, Samsung, Sequans. So. And then we have the vertical customer, so either RAI, or as I said, the hospital of Rennes, for example. Sorry. And then we have the vertical solution provider, Atos, LiveView for media, or Wings, Atos, many, or Samsung as well. And at the end, we have the technology innovation and analysts. So we have universities or other SMEs and public organizations helping with the the analysis of the results or the development of the use cases and KPIs before, and analyzing the results after the end of the project. So this is in a nutshell the project. My plane is leaving in 1 hour and a half, so this is why you know that it's good to have a mobility efficient city. So this is our consortium in a nutshell, and if you want more details, you can either contact me or contact my colleague Sylvia from Ericsson, who is the project manager, or go to our website 5gtours.eu, where you can see all the results. Okay, so the project has just started 1 week ago. We have our face-to-face meeting in 1 week time, and we are looking forward to bring a lot of good impact for over this 3-year period. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
And thanks again for keeping the time. Escape. Okay, we'll move straight on. We're on the last of the technical project presentations, 5G Victory, who of course tried to stress me with coming up with their logo at the last minute.
All right, thanks. So hi everyone, my name is Jesus Gutierrez. I'm with IHP GmbH in Germany. I'm the 5G Victory coordinator, and I will present some brief overview of the project. So the main goal, as some of the projects here around, is to conduct large-scale trials for advanced use case verification in commercially and operational environments. In this case, we are considering the cross-vertical interaction for different use cases, namely transportation, energy, media, and factories of the future. Duration is 3 years, consortium is 25 partners. We are leveraging on different platforms, ICT19 platforms, like for example, 5Genesis in Berlin, 5G Vini in Patras, and then we have some of the platforms like 5G UK in Bristol and some parts of 5G Eve, like a site in Sofia Antipolis, and as well as Alba Iulia municipality in Romania. If we focus on the consortium, so as I said, we are breaking down here the different partners according to the use cases we are targeting. So we have transportation and mobility, we have Deutsche Bahn, Renault, Bombardier, and some of the partners. We have in media, RBB, Mativision, and Urban Hawk for applications for virtual reality environments. And we have for energy Atmie, so it's the main energy operator in Greece. And as well, we have an SME in charge of bringing up new business models, all associated to all the technologies and all the different use cases we are targeting. Regarding the expertise, so we are basically basing our work on different projects from phase 1 and phase 2. So basically, we are using 5G EXO and 5G Picture as let's say, the baseline for developing the next technologies and the extension of the platforms in this ICT19. So we have, as you see, we can cover core technologies, access technologies, management orchestration, transport technologies, and I insist again on the use case framework development. So this is at the end an SME that will take care of to push these use cases and verification of the trials forward for new business models, and there is some work and some deliverables and work packages on that. Regarding the objectives, commercially relevant operational environments, as we have said, so we have the platforms, we have some nearby sites wherever all these use cases will happen. So we will be able to extend the ICT19 platforms in a way to support these use cases. We will have ICT19 platforms as they are now. We are leveraging on them with the technologies they have, extending just what we need to support the use cases. And we will have a lean management and orchestration layer on top of them to support interconnection of the use cases. We will define a repository with network functions that can be used across the different sites. And we will have cross-vertical use cases happening in different platforms at the same time. This is an overview of the use cases with the existing infrastructure for ICT19 and some extensions. And then we go directly to the use cases. I will briefly name all of them. I guess there are more or less 9. One of the use cases will take place in Patras. So the 5G infrastructure sits here, the data center sits here. There would be some backhaul connections to the track of the train, and we will be using millimeter wave beam steering functionality to address and to maintain the session continuity in the train. Regarding the digital mobility, so we will set up a 5G testbed in the Berlin Central Station. The idea is to help and to address the needs of the passengers that come to the central station, and to provide some kind of mobility as a service framework supported by different applications that will guide the users toward the destination within the station. We will have as well critical services for railway systems. So this is something really important for one of our partners, that is Deutsche Bahn, that they need to provide some additional or redundant communication with some of the different interlockings and some of the devices in the track of a train. So we will be able to provide a wireless connection, redundant connection for mission critical services along with all the partners. Regarding the factories of the future, so we will be using the ATMIE facilities near Athens, wherever we will provide some fully automated digital utility management systems for advanced monitoring solutions, using as well advanced synchronization solutions for the different parts of the network composing this use case. Coming to the media use case, we bring back the work to Berlin, to Berlin Hauptbahnhof. So we will be providing content delivery network to the passengers in the train, and as well to the users within the Berlin Central Station. So this will be along different partners, so mainly Deutsche Bahn as the infrastructure owner, and as well Radio Berlin Brandenburg for content delivery to the train. Use case energy metering. So we will have here 2 use cases, one happening in Greece in the ATMIE facilities for high voltage. So we will be able to have smart metering solutions for the different deployment of sensors that they have in the facility, and as well a low voltage energy metering application for the Alba Iulia municipality smart city, wherever they will have different light bulbs and other kind of energy facilities that should be able to address this energy metering use case. Regarding the KPIs address, so this is something that of course we have defined in the proposal in conjunction with the different vertical partners. This is in discussion now. We haven't had yet the kickoff meeting. We will have at the end of July, and we will be refining these numbers. And the timeline, of course, as many other ICT19 projects, we will be working till the end of, or till middle June 2022 with the support of some ICT platforms that might work, let's say, up to that point. So with this, I conclude my talk, and I guess it was quite fast indeed.
I'm impressed. Every one of the projects on time. This is good. This is good. Okay. It's not quite all the projects because, as Bernard mentioned, there's also a couple of support actions. But the one concerned with the support of this is the full 5G project, and I have the pleasure of being responsible for that. So I can explain a little bit about the support action and what it's done. But this is also directed towards the new projects a little, because it'll give you some context in which you interwork with the other projects. And I think you're actually going to generate some new interworking challenges that we're going to have to look after and support in the next couple of years. The 5G PPP is an evolving infrastructure. We started with phase 1. Bernard explained the phases, but my view of the phases from the support action side is the sort of family of projects that we need to keep talking together, keep working together, keep coherent. And as you can see from the colourful diagram, there was 19 projects in phase 1. We had another 21 in phase 2. Not all of these are finished yet, some of those are still running. In phase 3, it was split into 3 parts as such. There's the infrastructure projects, there's the automotive, and now there's the set you've just had the introduction to, which are very much focused on the applications area. There are a couple more calls to come in later this year and early next year, and I think in the final session today, one of the Commission guys will talk more on that. But it's just keep in mind, this is a movement, this is a progression, and we're logically progressing, as Colin's presentation showed, from starting with basic technology concepts all the way up to platforms, and now validating those platforms can actually deliver the necessary services. And one of the key points about this new set of projects that have just started is they have a responsibility to bring the vertical sectors along with us. Not that we get way ahead of them in technology, but actually that their processes, their business models and everything are supported through the life, and that they start to uptake, to enjoy these new services and integrate them into their process as the technology becomes available. Because one of the risks for 5G is if the technology comes before the use case is ready, there'll be a gap. The investment will be made and there'll be no return on investment for a period. So we need the use cases to grow with it. But in terms of the program, this is a diagram showing the phases in terms of the projects running in any given month over the last few years. And you can see phase 1 was in blue there, phase 2 in the off red, and phase 3 in the green. And we're actually here in the middle at the moment. So in the life of the PPP, there's a lot still to be done. We've got quite a lot achieved, but there's still a lot to be done. The previous support action was running for the period there, and the new one, Full 5G. Full 5G stands for fulfilling the 5G promise. And then there's an ambitious statement if I ever heard one. But we hope we can help the technical projects to achieve just that. The next couple of calls that we mentioned will further extend this. As you can see, there's still 3 years to go with this, and it's a lot of work, but it will achieve something fantastic, and I think this is the main point. Now, the interesting thing is, in order for these projects to all work together, there's an agreement called the Program Level Collaboration Agreement. And every partner in every project signs into this agreement. And we have roughly 470. There's an asterisk there because 1 or 2 projects change partners, leave one out, get a new one in or whatever. And you can see that the number of participants in each phase grows. And what does that mean? It means actually there's a number of new participants in each phase, because if you've signed into the collaboration agreement once, you don't need to re-sign it again. So the fact that it grows within each phase means we're bringing in new people. And in fact, Bernard mentioned this in his presentation, that if you look, of course in phase 1, everyone was new. In phase 2, some new people, but proportionally a lot of repeat business. But as we've gone towards the application phase, the proportion of new participants has grown again, and we're now, as Bernard mentioned, bringing in new players from the vertical sectors who are joining the activity. And what's a little bit amazing, I must compliment the new projects, because they've only just started, but many of them are well advanced on getting all their partners signed into this agreement at this stage. And well done to you guys. Keep going. We'll get them all up to speed. The reason we want them all signed in is because of the interworking between the projects. The agreement allows for a more open information exchange and interworking between the projects to allow them to achieve things together, to discuss technical issues without fear or worry or anything that information will be misused. And that is working extremely well. The projects themselves, of course, are the core of the program, but there are then a couple of layers of organization. There are working groups where there are thematic issues addressed by members of different projects working together. The technology board, led by Didier here, hi Didier, actually discusses the technical issues in common and the technical coherence and works on extracting some of the key technical information out of it. If you look on the website, you'll find the key issues, the key results from phase 1, you'll find the key results from phase 2, and I'm sure Didier will work hard on getting out the key information of phase 3 as well. The steering board at the upper level is where the project managers meet, and there are discussions and decisions on how major things such as common participation in dissemination activities, synchronizing timescales and so on, how that is handled. And yes, to the new projects, you're all invited to the steering board and the technology board, so you'll be expected to be there. The partnership board is a higher level again. It's the relationship between the 5GIA and the EC, and that overlooks the whole strategy of the PPP as an entity. And just to give you an idea, the working groups cover lots of subjects. There's two main types of working groups. There's working groups that have started from the technical interactions in the project. These are the project work groups to the right. And for example, the architecture work group is a real discussion between the projects about what's the appropriate 5G architecture that we need as we go forward. And I'll just do an advertisement for release 3 of the 5G PPP architecture, which was released just yesterday and is on the website. And it's an invitation to comment on it. There's a link and an email address, and you can read the new architecture and for the next month at least, send back any constructive comments. We're not looking for typo level comments, we're looking for principle level comments on the architecture. Similarly, what has emerged recently is the test measurement and KPI validation group. And here we see in the phase 3 projects there's going to be a need for some coherence in how we measure things, that we're actually measuring the same KPIs in the same way across various different discussions, because if we end up with totally random ways of measuring things, we could have one project claiming it's met all its KPIs, but then if you measured it the same way as the other project does it, it might meet none of them. So we do need some discussion as to what is the right way to do a lot of things. And this is the type of issue that must be some degree harmonized across the projects. On the other side of the picture, we have some of the work groups that are initiated and led by the 5GIA because they have a sort of strategic perspective on things, and they're necessary for pushing the strategy on these themes. And they range from things such as security and standardization through spectrum and responding to some of the emerging standards in the evaluation and that. And we do need to keep a strategic vision of where we're going and what the challenges are. Just to get a little bit more detail on the sort of relationships that we now expect in the next period and will somehow have to be overseen by the steering board and assisted by the technology board and maybe result in some of the activities in the different working groups. I redid Bernard's approach to mapping who's on what, and you can see there's interactions from the ICT19 projects to the ICT19 projects. It seems everybody likes Eve, so she's very popular. But the interactions are not all the same strength. Some are major interworking, some are smaller and later. All of these things will need relationships defined. The projects at each side of the matrix will have to come to working agreements between each other, and the support action and the steering board and the technology board will do their best to help these things work. Other little activities in the support action is producing the information. You should have got in your bag for this event the 2019 version of the annual. It's the 4th one in the series, and we're going to keep going to the end of this program, and I hope by the end of the program that these series of annuals show that Europe really did lead the evolution of 5G. And this was what we're trying to capture. We have a couple of booklets as well that show that introduce the projects in the first couple of phases. We probably need to do one now for the third phase, now that we know the set of projects here. The website is also there. As I said, you can find everything through the website. You'll find a link to every project, and usually directly from that project page you can find their page and their active links. The link in the 5G, the page in the 5G PPP is static. It's just giving you the direction to the projects. The projects maintain their own sites after that. But you'll also find all the common material. You'll find, for example, all the white papers, all the position papers published. You'll find the key achievements. And this is just reflecting the work done by the support action to assemble this information and present it as best we can. The consortium in the support action is a set of organizations with different responsibilities and different characteristics from various countries. We can even map them to the countries if you want, don't worry. But the point about the group is they contain the necessary competence to maintain the information flow and maintain the working infrastructure. And that's the key point of the support action. The objectives we have in this period are very definitely to start realizing we're now getting to the stage where we need to move out with a lot of our activities. We need to keep improving the vertical stakeholder involvement. We need to make sure the collected results are enhancing the competitiveness of European industry. So these are the program goals which the support action must work with. Of course, we have to really work on organizing and supporting the inter-project collaborative infrastructure and providing the working mechanisms for that, and assisting with the promotion of the 5G PPP activities. One discussion we will have is what is the right forum for promoting the results of this community in the next period? Will it be, of course, we'll come to the next issues of EuCNC and that, but we maybe need to focus a little bit more on the sector events and bring 5G to the sectors. And this could be a new ambition in the next period. Okay, that's all I wanted to say about the support action. So we're not doing badly on time. We have a couple of minutes now. And if the project officers want to come up or want to come up if they're asked a question, we can take a few questions now on any of the projects or the Commission or the Association's view on all of this. Did anyone have any questions? Didier, question or statement? Microphone is coming. Microphone is coming. Please stand up and introduce yourself to the people. It's on. Is it?
No, it's
yes,
no,
it is.
Yeah, thanks. So Didier Bourse, Nokia, do you plan to have the project manager, technical manager on the scene? Or?
Yes, the project managers are here. Do you want to come up, guys, or do you want to just get up when you're asked a question?
Okay, no, it's just few comments. So it's very, very good to see this set of presentation, and we are very pleased with all projects that have started. So as David mentioned, we will have a lot of action, and it's already clear with the presentation what we could expect in terms of future interaction with the working group, with the SB, with the TB. So the point is that very rapidly we expect to possibly include the different champions, the PM, the TM, and the champions in the working group. Just a point that we want to boost very rapidly with you the so-called platform cartography and vertical cartography. So to really progress the understanding on what will be the different platform and nodes used by the ICT19 project, and what will be the overall set of vertical use cases, as this was presented project by project. So we want to develop the full picture. What we plan from a technology board perspective is we plan a big PPP technical workshop a priori in the time frame of October, with meeting not only the technical manager but also key person from the project to discuss let's say technical issue. What we foresee, and also discussing with several of you during the last days, it may be of very high importance to rapidly discuss between ICT19 project and ICT17 projects. So ever we do it, we continue to do it, let's say, not only project by project, but globally, and we make a dedicated workshop or meeting in September, or we can potentially wait for October in the big technical workshop. So we need to discuss that rapidly. In order to move on this, we need also to set up the interaction with the different technical manager if I take the technology board. So as soon as possible, we want to work on this, possibly before the summer break, in order to define also how to move forward very rapidly, immediately, early September. So that's it from my side.
Thank you, Didier. Any questions, other thoughts, comments? You're very quiet. You're not going to get out until at least I get one question. Okay. One question I'll actually ask Simona of the architecture work group. Simona, what is the idea for bringing the new projects into the architecture discussion? Or will they get this release, or will there be a new release in next year or something?
Yes, the plan will be anyway to continue the work. So we, as you mentioned yesterday, we released the version number 3 of the white paper. And of course, now we plan to go on sleep mode for a few months in order to let projects to do further work, in particular also to let, let's say, the phase 2 project to complete the ongoing work, and the phase 3 project to ramp up the work. And then, of course, we will be starting discussing an update of a new release of the white paper during next year. And in that case, of course, we will include also the phase 3 project, and also we will be looking to the project which will come up also from the ICT20 on the long-term evolution, because we expect that project will be also the one who will bring larger innovation or disruption from the architectural side. So.
Thank you. One question to the new projects. Let's see if any of you are brave enough to answer a question yet. There's a lot of discussion and a lot of overlap in the use cases. Have you foreseen or have you thought about interactions between the projects who have use cases in common? Has that come into your thoughts yet, or have you worked on it? No. Okay, Didier, I see we've probably got a discussion we're going to have to manage there a little, because if I look at Bernard's slide where he identified the subsets within each use case, there is potentially a lot of interaction between the projects on individual use cases, and we'll have to see how that works, that we don't end up with orthogonal results for each use case.
Yeah, thanks, David. Good point. Maybe 2 points also to add on this. What we are targeting in the coming period, so I explained you that we want to rapidly update with the ICT19 project, the so-called vertical cartography and platform cartography. I think most of you know, you have already seen, for instance, the first update for the geographic, that is the easiest part of the platform cartography. So we want to work with you. And we have a target in mind, with milestone, is that we want to release the so-called trials working group roadmap, so the Pan-European Trials roadmap, to be presented in Dresden for the IEEE 5G Summit end of September. So as much as possible, we want to give an exhaustive picture up to date on where we stand on both the vertical and the platform. On the point of David, so clearly, as Colin stressed that, there is a very big focus on vertical, and to continue to develop the interaction with the vertical, and obviously there will be a lot of vertical trials, pilot, use cases, investigation, including on KPI. So we target a very strong PPP global white paper for the Mobile World Congress next year. So we are currently defining the key messages, draft table of content, but there will be a lot of work, and also we want, as David stressed that, clearly also to see by vertical sector what is addressed and what will be the message we want to convey in this Mobile World Congress paper. So again, the timing for this will be before the end of the year to have, let's say, almost the final version of the paper to be ready for the Mobile World Congress. So be prepared also from a new ICT19 project starting to contribute to this important action. Thanks.
Okay, I'm getting a little bit worried we might terrify the new projects that we have so many cross-project activities in line for you already. I do actually see a question in the middle.
So, Pascal Bisson from Thales. I'm also the technical manager of 5G drone and also one of the co-chairs of the 5G security working group. Can you please remind the process to get engaged a new project with these working groups? Because I think it's probably the right moment to invite them to join and to raise the hand to join the working group in which they have interest.
Okay, there are two steps involved in this. One is the, how will I say, the qualification. And there I go back a little bit to the collaboration agreement. We do need you to get all your partners signed into the collaboration agreement because the working groups involve an open discussion on quite detailed technical information between the projects. So there's a hesitation to invite you to the working groups if your partners are not signed in, because it will mean you'll have access to the information of the other projects that should be at least recognized in terms of confidentiality and that sort of thing. And I see my colleague Uwe standing up. Uwe has the responsibility in the steering board management side, and that you can grab a microphone there on the table. And he can explain the other side of it, the logistics side of getting involved. It'll turn on, yes?
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
So, yeah, my name is Uwe Herzog, and I coordinate a little bit in the background the access of projects to BCW and adding to mailing lists of the working groups and so on. And regarding this point that was asked about projects joining working groups, I had already informed a week ago or so all coordinators of the new projects of the ICT19. So the coordinators do have the information about how it goes. And I could just summarize again. When a project is interested to join a working group, and the list of all working groups is available on the 5G PPP web, so you can get an easy overview. I also included the link in the information so they can find it. Then you should contact the chairperson of the working group. And there is a list on the BCW with all the chairperson contact details, so you can easily contact them. I also included a link to this document in my email. So all the information about what are the working groups, how to contact them, was sent to the coordinators. And then when you discuss with the chairperson of the working group that you're interested, then I assume in most cases the chairperson will be happy for a project to join the activities. And then it's up to the chairperson of the working group to get in touch with EuRescom, who is supporting and coordinating these details on giving access and so. And they will make sure that the people are being added to the mailing list and that access is also granted to the document repository on the BCW to these projects, so that you can then keep using your unique project login to the BCW to also have access to the working group spaces. So all projects just get one login to the BCW, and this will grant you access to all the areas and spaces that you need to access. So that's a brief summary on how it works. And if there's any question or doubt, I'm of course happy to answer.
Okay, I've just blown this. I was actually trying to switch back to the workgroup list to make the point that, where have I got the workgroup list? Yes. There are some of the work groups which are inherently different. For example, the trials work group is a more open public work group, so it's not restricted to just the projects. It actually has participants from outside. Some of the ones launched by the association are meant to work in a wider context than the projects. But the project ones very definitely work in the way Uwe has described. What he did mention as well is the common repository. Across this program, we have a common repository which has individual spaces for each project, individual spaces for each working group, and the access is controlled by the collaboration agreement in the first instance. If people are not signed into the collaboration agreement, they don't get access to the common repositories. And there's also technology board spaces and so on. You get allocated access to the various parts of it as you need it, and if you've decided to participate in various activities. So that's the long answer to your question, Pascal, but in reality, talk to us, tell us what you want, respond to the email Uwe has sent, and you'll get into the workgroup activities as quickly as possible. Any other question? Oh yes, we have a question in the far corner, sorry.
Hi, Mona Gassemian from BT UK. This is more of an invitation rather than a question. As part of 5G Vini project, we are actually setting up the facility sites now, and we are anticipating that to start fall 2019. So if any of the partners within 5G PP projects are interested to launch their use cases and do the testing of the facility, we are welcoming the collaboration. I'll be in the 5G Vini booth the rest of the today, and looking forward starting the discussion for possible collaborations. Thank you.
Thank you for that information. Now, guys, you've got the information. Please act on it. Any other? Yes, we have a question at the back. On the right. Who will get there first? Okay.
Hi, good morning. My name is Shi. I'm from NEC, Germany. I'm the technical manager of 5G growth. I have a question regarding ICT19 platforms. So as I have seen, most of the projects refer to 5G Eve, or some of them 5G Vini. So I'm wondering how all these different new ICT19 projects are coordinating on accessing all the ICT17 platforms. So this should be coordinated by ICT17 project, or there should be some discussion or interaction among all the ICT19 projects, how we are accessing the ICT platforms.
I think you've just generated a perfect topic for the next steering board meeting. The technical interworking will have to be, I presume, a form of a service level agreement between whichever project is using the facility and whichever project is providing the facility. That level of technical detail will have to be worked out on a peer-to-peer basis. At the technology board and at the steering board, we can assist to make sure this process is working in that. And if we find, for example, there's an overload situation or the projects can't handle or whatever, we'll have to deal with that. We have, I think, a corresponding answer coming from Diego.
Well, Diego Lopez, Telefónica, I'm sorry it's not a corresponding answer, is a related concern about the fact that if you look at, well, most, if not all, of the presentations from the 5G for the ICT19 projects, all of them are not only announcing that they're going to use the ICT17, but they want to enhance or modify ICT17 platforms. I mean, if we were talking about one project modifying one platform, fine. We're talking about 7 projects trying to modify in different directions 3 platforms. I enjoy that in the board. It's going to be really, really. And seriously, what I'm really concerned is that we should try to find inside the technology board a common, at least a common approach based on, I mean, or common abstractions to deal with this, and which I'm not saying that it's easy, but it's essential. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess.
Okay, I think the point is very well made, and I think it is something we've identified from the support side as well. It's a situation we're going to have to keep an eye on. We're going to have to see how it works in practice. You're probably going a step ahead of me already, Diego, in thinking physically how can this actually happen, because if there's too many variations required, the ICT17 projects will not have the capacity to support N variations. And I appreciate that point. But I think the issue will be the management, the communication and work out. We have a little bit of time as the ICT19 projects become a bit more formal with their requirements, for us to use the technology board and the steering board to try and see what efficiencies and coherence we can get in that. It won't be resolved overnight though. Time-wise, I think we've consumed our time. Bernard, we had you down to say something on the future, but I think you were planning to do that in the next session anyway. So, okay, then we'll leave you to say that in the next session. And we can close this session. People want coffee. Only to say, we wish the new projects very best of luck. You've picked a very large challenge, and we wish you every success with it. Thank you.